you like call on the Holy Spirit and like you invite him into your heart, you let your walls down because he knows everything. God is never going to give you more than you can handle, and the Holy Spirit will help you to do God's will. He's going to give you the grace. Hi, my name is John Luke. I'm 19 years old and I'm from Australia. I grew up in a Catholic family. I'm one of 10 kids, so life was pretty hectic from the get-go, but like it was always a lot of fun. Growing up, my family, we were part of like a Catholic community for like quite a while. My family was part of this community for like 20 years. My grandparents were involved, all my aunties, uncles, that kind of thing. Yeah, the faith was kind of always a big part of my life. It was a very charismatic community, so like the Holy Spirit was always kind of at work. Like there would be people, you know, praying over each other and like using the gifts and speaking in tongues and all that kind of thing. So the Holy Spirit was always kind of there. It was just something that was very familiar to me. When I was about 12, my family, we had like a bit of a falling out with this community. So we stopped like participating, stopped going. We were still like practicing. We would go to mass on Sundays and all that kind of thing. But that kind of, you know, very charismatic kind of faith aspect wasn't there as much. And I guess like the activeness of like the Holy Spirit in my life wasn't, you know, there anymore. I always knew about like the Holy Spirit, like I heard it, you know, all the time. I knew like I saw how he worked in other people's lives, but I didn't know, you know, what the Holy Spirit was for me, like, or who he was exactly. Like I heard a lot, but like there's a difference between like, you know, hearing things and like actually like knowing it. And I didn't know it. Life went on. There was like a few like kind of you know, things that came into my life that were like a bit difficult. My dad had a back injury. He was a builder and he wasn't able to work for some time. So our family, we didn't have any money. There was also a lot of like internal struggles within my family, and I kind of just became very like internalized and bottled up because there was a lot going on and I didn't know how to, you know, talk about things with my family or even with God. When I was about 14, I had just made my confirmation. It was a little bit later than a lot of other people, but that's just the way it was. But yeah, I'd made my confirmation and I knew that I wanted to take my faith more seriously. So I started going to youth groups, attending conferences, that kind of thing. And I'd always see like people, you know, experiencing God and like all that kind of thing. And I knew that like, you know, God was there for me, but I didn't really have a relationship with him, and I didn't really have a relationship with the Holy Spirit either. So I was at this retreat one time with my brother, and there was praise and worship going on. There was also confession available, and I decided to go to confession. Hadn't been in a while, and I went to confession, and you know, I made a good confession. I got everything off my chest. It was the priest absolved me and I was forgiven. But when I came out of like the confessional, like I didn't feel the forgiveness. I didn't feel like that light feeling that you have when like you know, have the weight lifted off your shoulders. And I kind of just wondered like why, because I knew that like we're forgiven because Jesus promises when we go to him in confession that we are forgiven. I was kind of like thinking about this and I was like, why? Why don't I feel forgiven? And like I kind of remembered, you know, the things that had happened that had kind of like made me like go into myself and like kind of shut everything out. And I realized that I was so like closed off, so internalized that I'd even like shut God's forgiveness out, shut his love out. And as I was thinking about this, I was like, wow, like this is stupid. Like why would I shut God out when he can see everything anyway? So I made like this kind of like simple prayer, and it was like, you know, God, you see everything, you know me, I surrender. And immediately, like I felt, you know, God's love, like just like, you know, coming into me, and like it was so overwhelming. I began to cry, and that was like the first time that I really like encountered like God, encountered the Holy Spirit. Like I knew that he was like this active, like, you know, this active person who could, you know, fill you with like love and peace. And since then, like I've tried to like build up my relationship with God, with the Holy Spirit, to get to know the person of the Holy Spirit. Because he is a person, like he's like a teacher, you know, He can like help you to get to God, to get to know God. Jesus said, no one comes to the Father except through me. And he sent us the Holy Spirit to help us with that. And that's what Pentecost was when Jesus like ascended into heaven. Like he sent the helper to help us to get to God. And that didn't just happen on Pentecost. That happens every day. It's been happening for 2,000 years, and the Spirit is alive and active. And all you have to do is like call on him. Spirit is not selective, like he's for everyone. So if you like call on the Holy Spirit and like you invite him into your heart, you let your walls down, because he knows everything. And you don't have to be afraid, because God is never going to give you more than you can handle. And the Holy Spirit will help you to do God's will. He's going to give you the grace, the strength that you need to do God's will, to live the life that he wants you to lead. Easier said than done, maybe. And like I know for myself that I don't always let the Holy Spirit in. I don't always trust. But what have you got to lose, really? Because life is hard, and it's already hard. And it's not like it's going to get harder with God in your life. It's going to get easier. Like the problems, like your struggles, everything's still going to be there, but it's going to help you to get through it. And like that's where the Holy Spirit like plays a part in our lives. Is like he's the helper, he's the teacher, he's the one that helps us to get to God, to help us to get to heaven. And that's like why when Jesus left us and he went up to heaven, well, he didn't leave, but physically left. He sent the Holy Spirit to help us to get to God, help us to get to heaven. So yeah, just invite the Holy Spirit into your life. What have you got to lose? And let him guide you, let him give you the grace that you need. Rely on him, and let him be a teacher to you.